So Democrats really want to change the War Powers Act. They want to prevent President Trump from being able to do something that is wholly constitutional. They're special people. But there are some Democrats who aren't out of their heads. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. We've got the White House briefing as well. And then, well, this insane nugget. The radio show has begun. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's do that. In the most insane piece of information I could give you, breaking just today, is this nugget from Fox News, Trey Yingst reporting.
This is breaking news. Turkey's Ministry of Defense says that an Iranian ballistic missile was launched toward their country, and it was shot down by NATO air defense systems, fragments of that missile landing in southern Turkey. This is a major development and the first time that a country like Turkey has received incoming Iranian ballistic missile fire.
That is insane. And the Iranians are lashing out at everyone. Turkey is a NATO nation, which would add, normally the expression people use is beg the question, even though that's not the proper use of the phrase. But an attack on Turkey, that's Article 5, right? An attack on one is an attack on all. It doesn't matter that this was the United States and Israel engaged in going after the Iranian regime and taking them out. This is an attack on one, is an attack on all. Does Article 5 get triggered? Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com, live streaming. You can check that out on YouTube. Just look for Tony Katz and subscribe. You shoot missiles at Kuwait. You shoot missiles at Jordan. You shoot missiles at Saudi Arabia. Well, I can almost see you shooting missiles at Saudi Arabia. You've been involved in a proxy war with Saudi Arabia and Yemen as Iran, the Iranian regime, has backed the Houthi rebels for years now. But the Turks are going to be thrilled to see you go. Oh, is that why you did it? You want them to help hasten the end? They got a lot of NATO hardware. They have a sizable military. You don't want to have this fight unless you already know you're going to lose. Unless you already know that it's over. Which I would argue, it seems clear to me that they know. The latest news is that the United States sunk an Iranian warship. This warship known as the Soleimani. Now, you remember the name Soleimani because President Trump had him killed in the first term. And, they were angry and they went, ooh. That's how you knew. That's how you knew they were very, very upset. Well, they had this warship. It was their most advanced warship. Was the Soleimani. And the United States took it out with a Mark 48. Now, sometimes referred to as the MK 48. And you say to me, Tony, how do I know that name? How have I heard that before? Wait, I'm not used to that. Does that get shot off of an Apache? Where does that come from? It's a torpedo. We took out what's known as the Irish Shaheed Soleimani with a torpedo, an MK-48. This is a heavy torpedo. It is the first sinking, according to the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II. And for the record, the U.S. Department of Defense putting the screen grabs out of the sinking of the ship going down from what looks like the periscope of the submarine. For all of the issues with our Navy, and there are many because we do not have enough ships, we need to be at the 340 number, and we are not doing a good job of it. And shipbuilding is incredibly important, not just military, but cargo and other ships. We have an absolutely amazing submarine force, and we always have. I mean, beyond good. Beyond concerning for the Russians and for the Chinese, and the Russians, of course, having their own submarines, we're that much better. This is still a remarkable thing to witness. The secretary saying the Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated, pick your adjective. And when you listen to the secretary, when you listen to some of his commentaries, you realize that he is not having a conversation to be braggadocious. He's having a conversation of pure propaganda.
Sure, Iran will still be able to shoot some missiles and still be able to launch one-way attack drones at civilian targets. And their proxies will attempt to attack our embassies, bases, and soft targets. They are terrorists, after all, and they need to target civilians because they can't fight toe-to-toe. But we will find them, and we will kill them. This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step.
That is not for the American media, although I would say that Hegseth believes that about the American media. This is about the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and reminding them that they've lost. We control your fate. We control everything. We are in charge. All of the rest. That's what it's about. It is about letting them know that no matter what, we've got you. And there is nothing you can do about it. We are now into the propaganda part of this war, which is, well, always a part of war. It's always a part of the conversation. No one should be surprised by it. Now, President Trump, as reports go, backing armed groups to force out the Iranian regime. One of the things that we've talked about, guys, repeatedly, was that the success can only happen if the IRGC is cracked. So you want to make them feel desperate. You want to make them feel like all is lost. You want to make them feel like there's no possibility for them. There's no future here. It's all done. It's all finished. It's just a matter of time. Break their will. Right? We can all see that. But as we've discussed, you're not going to have this fight be done. You can talk about the airways and the waterways, Secretary Hegseth, but it isn't done until the IRGC is broken and the people are then able to take their government. And for the record, I favor the Iranian people choosing their own path, not having the Ayatollah, not having these mullahs, not having to live under these Islamists. And I think the people who are somehow in favor of the Islamists, pretty disgusting and pretty stupid. You want to hate America? No one cares. You want the Iranian people to actually live under a ruthless Islamist regime? You're disgusting. You're gross. You are obscene. You are broken. There's no respect at all to have for these people. And certainly, I'm not about to have any. And neither should you. But you have to get rid of the IRGC. So now what we're hearing is that Trump is willing to support groups inside Iran that would take up arms against the weakened government. Now, this brings us to letters of marque. Letters of marque and reprisal. Letters of marque and reprisal is the ability to hire those who you need to do certain levels of work. And that work can be pretty intense. That work can be pretty aggressive. So this is nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. That there could be some type of force on the ground that isn't made up of American boots. I'm fine with this. We have a history of this. We have the history, I should say, of being able to do this. This is not a shock at all. But as we see, as we have discussed, you cannot have the success until you take out the IRGC. But what is happening now, what is going on now, is we are in the propaganda part of this campaign 10,000%. Even down to this idea of it's going to be weeks. We'll be there for 5 weeks. It's going to take 5 weeks. What happens when it takes 2 weeks? What happens at that moment? Well, we got it done even faster. Look how good we are. Look how strong we are. All the rest. Everything from here on out. You got to be able to take the data. You got to run the data through your own level of filter and say what's propaganda and what is. What is the message that they're trying to send and who are they trying to send it to? Right? That's what we have to do from here on out. And I can appreciate that because that's, you know what, every war is won before it begins. Isn't that Sun Tzu? So here we are now. Can you break the IRGC? You're already sinking ships. And how quickly can you get the oil flowing out of the Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz? Because that's when markets really start rallying. Although the market, at like midday was up over 300 points. Remember, it was down 1,200 at one point. It was down 1,200 points at one point yesterday and closed 400 down. And then what do you see today? You see the market up. What do you see from barrel prices of oil? You see it down a little. It doesn't mean that everything's going to work out great. It doesn't mean it's going to work out smooth. If still some rough spots ahead, it means the initial is over. And the market right now says, okay, this might be a little bit of new normal for a while. We'll see how it settles out. But clearly, even with Iran's ability to still shoot missiles and do some damage here, do some damage there, the United States does, and this is the world belief, does have this well in hand. Israel does have this well in hand. The quicker this is done, the quicker the regime is broken, the quicker the people of Iran are leading themselves to a better life, the better for everybody. I'm hoping for quick. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. Guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it quite a bit. So Jeffrey thinks that the U.S. is going to start protecting the ships that are going through the Straits of Hormuz. It's certainly possible that they're going to do such a thing and make sure that the oil does flow because the world needs it. It's always, whenever these people are like, it's all about oil with you, always war for oils. War for oil better than war for marshmallows. I mean, what do you? I live in the real world. I'm not going to pretend that the oil isn't a big part of it. Not going to pretend. Oh, don't make me play Whoopi Goldberg. I'm doing it because I mean, this is a story. Where is it? Sorry, you get Whoopi. Sorry, that's your punishment. You know you deserved it. It hurts me more than it hurts you. Coming back to the show, guys.
But people who pay taxes, because just because you haven't become a citizen doesn't mean you're not paying taxes.
Actually, most undocumented immigrants pay more taxes than anyone. And we should also mention that they're 5 times less likely to commit crimes than Americans.
Great. Keep saying that. Keep saying that, The View, like it's an argument. A Virginia mother was stabbed to death at a bus stop in Fairfax County. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. 41-year-old mother, Stephanie Minter, was found inside a bus stop. Multiple stab wounds, pronounced dead at the scene. They review the surveillance footage, and they identify a suspect, a 32-year-old, a Sierra Leone national who entered the U.S. illegally and had a lengthy arrest history. Why don't Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg now try and have this same conversation? Go ahead. Bring us the same bullcrap nonsense story. You unbelievable frauds who are okay with dead Americans and specifically dead women. You're okay with women being stabbed on light rails like Irina Sarutska. You're okay with women being stabbed at bus stops. You're okay with women who are out for a jog getting beaten to death and their skull crushed in by a rock. That's Laken Riley. Of course you're okay with it. What are you going to tell me you're not okay with it? Go ahead, scream, yell, complain. Say, how dare you? How dare you, Sonny? We get it. You think you're above it all. You really think you're smart. No one else thinks this. Here's what we think. That I can stop, you could stop, Sonny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg. We could stop 100% of illegal alien crime by removing all the illegal aliens. Fact. There is no questioning my math. My argument is sound and complete. If you want to do this math, it's a weird math. That, illegal immigrants commit less crimes than Americans. There are less illegal immigrants in the country than Americans. So what are we talking about here? Percentages? They commit this percentage of crime. Americans commit this percentage of crime. I'm not saying that's good that Americans are committing crimes, but they are American citizens and they have rights and they live here. Illegal immigrants should not be here, and we could stop all the crime. And I now have at least 2 women who could be alive, and a 3rd woman would be alive if prosecutors actually prosecuted. That's Irina Sarutska. Their argument is nonsense. And it is up to us to not only to remember their names, but to be discussing this every day. Because normally the conversation goes, moms, your kids are not safe in these cities where progressives run things. If progressives have their way. Look what the Biden administration did. You know, I was on Newsmax earlier today. And what I said was that when you take a look at the massive illegal immigration that the Biden administration allowed, they were either trying to suicide the country or murder the country. And I've seen other people talk about this before, and I think it's the right argument. You could decide whether it was trying to suicide the country or murder the country, but that's what they did. Proactively keeping borders open, allowing people into the country who should never been in the country. They put American lives in danger. They put other lives in danger. They're the ones with blood on their hands. Joe Biden might be enjoying retirement, but his hands are bloody. He did this. He's guilty. Jill Biden is guilty. The administration is guilty. Kamala Harris is guilty. They did this. Now you could say to me, hey, Tony, other administrations didn't do a good job at the border. And we will agree. A lot of people with a lot of blood on their hands. I am saying for the 4 years of Joe Biden, it was purposeful. Only in the last 6 months did it get a little bit better because, after all, there was an election to lose. They did this purposefully. And it's up to us to clean up the mess. The arguments from people like Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg are daft, ignorant, foolhardy arguments meant to make liberal white women clap like circus seals. That's it. But white women, liberal white women, clapping like circus seals is not a policy. It's nonsense. It's not smart. It's not bright. And I'm sorry if liberal white women are offended, but right now you're a serious problem if you're not in favor of removing illegal immigrants and keeping yourself safe. Usually it's about keeping your kids safe. This is about you, Mom. When do you start giving a damn about you? And why do I care more about you than you care about you? That seems silly, but I do, and I wish you cared more. This is Tony Katz today. Anyway. Good to see everybody. X-Man and VA. You're in Virginia, right? You are there in Virginia. If I think that's right. I think I'm reading that right. Isn't it? X-Man and VA, like he lives in Virginia. That's my take. That's what I believe. Yes. See, I was right. He is in VA. Got that. By the way, fantastic governor you have in Abigail Spanberger. Lucky you. Anyway. I keep thinking Trump is going to talk, but he's got the White House briefing scheduled for today. And so I don't think that's going to be the case. Is Kristi Noem still testifying? Talking? No. He's precious. Precious. Let's see what's going on here.
Anyway, you're terrorizing American citizens. Let's turn to another one. Okay,
I don't object to that, Kristi Noem.
One of your ICE officers in Maine recently told an observer that they're creating a database. Are you creating a database, ma'am?
No, we're not creating a database.
Let's watch a video here.
Well, let's
To
watch.
record.
I don't know who that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
We're videotaping
Now,
you?
you see, that's messed up.
Are you
You got to
crazy?
deal with that.
Tom Homan, who works for you on Fox News, recently said he wanted to create a database of people arrested during protests at ICE operations. What are you going to do with that database?
I don't know why he said that. We're not creating a database.
But he did say it. He works for you. He's
He
not
doesn't
an
work for
agent,
me.
he's an
He works for the-
employee.
He works for the president. He doesn't work for
He
me.
also works for you, ma'am.
No, he doesn't.
What do you want to do with that database?
We are not
This is
creating
a database of American citizens. Ma'am, I'm out of time, but what I'd like to do is send you a list.
I don't
of
actually
these
mind the
questions that
question.
I've asked of you and have the opportunity to answer them.
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't disagree. He was messing with that woman. Right, fine, except that's not what you get to do. You now did this thing. It's not insane that someone would say, are you creating a database? Which is weird because I think Democrats love to have conservatives on a database.
From Texas.
It's Roy right here.
Madam Secretary, thank you for joining us here today. One of the individuals that are sitting behind you approached me during the break and said something to the effect of, it is a gut punch to listen to our colleagues on the other side of the aisle characterize this situation the way they are, and that they are not remotely understanding the impact on American citizens who lost loved ones directly due to the specific policy choices of the previous administration and the policy choices my colleagues on the other side of the aisle would put in place right now if they could and if they were in power. Your predecessor was impeached. Your predecessor, Mayorkas, was impeached in part because he lied to me under oath in this room when he declared that there was operational control of the border, and he knew full well, and evidence indicated by his own admission, that there was not operational control of the border. My question for you, Madam Secretary, is, do you believe that many of the victims behind you, represented behind you, and the thousands of others of victims, fentanyl poisonings and otherwise, would have been alive today if the policies of the current administration had been in place and in force under the previous administration, under Biden and Mayorkas?
I do, sir. I believe that many of these victims, their situations were preventable. They didn't have to happen.
And this direct assault by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle on ICE, right? Is this not an environment created significantly by they themselves? When you have the Minnesota governor calling ICE enforcement the modern day Gestapo, when you have the Minneapolis mayor telling ICE to get the F out of Minneapolis, when you have the Illinois governor claiming the United States is essentially becoming Nazi Germany, when you have House Minority Leader Jeffries calling for people to, quote, fight President Trump's enforcement agenda in the streets, end quote, does that not create the environment that they decry right now, undermining ICE and endangering citizens, the very citizens you have behind me who expect us to do our job and secure the border and secure our communities?
Yeah, I can't believe the way that they abuse these law enforcement officers who take an oath to go out and to protect this country and put their lives on the line, and many times live in these communities.
That is Congressman Chip Roy asking questions of Secretary Kristi Noem as she is testifying in front of House Judiciary, talking about oversight. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. There are legitimate questions, and then there are maddening questions. The legitimate question, it was asked by a Democratic member of Congress whose name I don't know. Hey, here's a video of an ICE agent saying that they're collecting information on protesters and creating a database. Are you creating a database of Americans? Legit question, because I don't want databases. Thank you very much. And while we're on the subject of not creating databases, I don't want any databases for who owns a gun. Democrats, since we're opposed to databases, I say we keep this going. What is the let the good times roll? How do you say that for Mardi Gras? That's it right there. Man, I wish I knew that. It'd be all cross-cultural. Awesome. Now you're just making words up, Producer Landon. I don't think you got that right. You may have. I don't know. But when it comes to the idea of removing illegal immigrants, one of the things that we have to keep going back to is in Minneapolis, you have these violence protesters engaged in violence. They're purposefully attacking ICE agents. Over 10,000 deportations in New Orleans, and you don't see a video. You don't hear a word. How is that? Shocking, I tell yous. If you don't attack ICE agents, things go pretty smooth. Maybe we would find that there's more local law enforcement working with ICE agents, and it goes smooth. So the hearing is ongoing. I want to bring you a couple more minutes of this, of the secretary, Kristi Noem, answering questions right now from Congressman Chip Roy of Texas.
Live in these communities with their families as well, doing these jobs, and recognize that their lives are put on the line too, while they uphold the law that this country was built on.
Am I correct that on day one, President Trump signed Executive Order 14159, protecting American people against invasion, which invoked turn-away authority and refers asylum seekers to file for asylum in safe third countries like Mexico?
That is correct.
And did the president also sign a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border, directing resources for the border wall?
That is correct.
Did the president also sign an executive order securing borders, ending mass parole, such as the illegal CHNV program that was abused by the previous administration?
That is correct.
So did that not change things immediately within a day, because the president came into office despite the protests by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that they needed to pass a ridiculous piece of legislation that would have codified 5,000 people a day? Mm-hmm. My question here is, now I want to turn it back on Congress. If we have a future Biden and Mayorkas, will those policies be able to be reversed on day one?
Yes.
But, right. So should not this Congress do what we did in H.R. 2 in the previous Congress in codifying changes to asylum, parole, and the abusive policies on catch and release that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will 100% abuse if they're put back in charge and endanger the American people? Does Congress not need to pass that bill, codify it, send it to the Senate, and force the Senate to make that law so that no future president can endanger the American people?
Yes, please do that. And I believe President Trump has asked you to do that.
Yeah, that's correct. That is accurate. That is a very good way of fighting. And the Republicans have been awful at fighting. I say bravo right there. That's well done. Why won't Democrats work proactively to protect the American people? Why don't we make moves to codify these things, get this stuff into law so people like Biden and like Mayorkas can't harm us anymore? Why can't we have this standard? Let's move on this. And this is a subject, I think, that's a winner for the midterms. Now, for the midterms to take place, you got to get to the general election. Right now, we're still in primary season. And in primary season, my gosh, Texas, you made it fun. You made it fun. I mean, not for Jasmine Crockett. Oh, we will miss her. Jasmine Crockett loses the primary to James Tallarico. And even before the primary was done, there she was saying, cheater. You absolute cheater.
All Red has already stated. We encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote. Stand in line, wait in line already.
Yeah, they stood in line. They waited in line. They voted for James Tallarico with 53% of the vote and Jasmine Crockett with 45% of the vote. You lost. You lost, and that's the way it is. And I think that it was, we had a lot of fun, you and me, Jasmine. Can I call you Jasmine now? Now that you're soon to be a civilian? Can I call you Jazz? Jazzy? DJ Jazzy Jeff? We had a really good time together. We laughed and we joked, and I created an entire radio segment multiple times, dozens of times around your beautiful words. Jasmine Crockett's masterpiece theater. I don't want to get told by YouTube I can't monetize the video, so I'm done right there. You know what? I wonder, Jazz. Can I call you Jazz? I wonder if if you question whether or not the code switching really worked. Remember when you would talk to one group of people a certain way, and then when you're in another group of people, you talk a different way, and you were acting all street tough. I wonder if you regret any of that, Jazz. Can I call you Jazz? Would you prefer Jasmine? How about just Lady J? I don't know. I don't know what your name is going to be when you get a job at MS Now. She's getting a job at MS Now. You know this. I know this. We all know this. I mean, she's not going away empty-handed. No. Lady J going to make bank. Oh, she's not going to make Ilhan Omar money. I mean, she's not a thief. She's just going to cash in. There's a big difference. Big alleged thief. Alleged. Oh, but man, is she going to do everything in her power to ruin Tallarico on the way out. And just remember, James Tallarico and Stephen Colbert colluded to keep a black woman from being on television. That's what they did. And you go to people like Joe Scarborough over there at MS Now, where Jasmine Crockett will be a contributor. I don't know how he's going to deal with this, because he's still, like all these progressives, lying about what happened. If you don't know what happened, Stephen Colbert, on his soon-to-be defunct late night show there on CBS, had James Tallarico on, this Democrat and now candidate for Senate. And all of a sudden, they couldn't air it. And so what they did is they blamed Trump and lawsuits for Trump kept us from airing this interview. No, Colbert did not have Jasmine Crockett on. CBS was concerned about equal time. So Colbert pulled the interview and put it online, did not put it on the air. Colbert made the decision. What say you, absolute fraud, Joe Scarborough?
So here they try to keep Tallarico off the show. What happens? They give him a boost. If you talk to Jasmine Crockett, she'll say the same thing. I was ahead until that controversy. So the very person they were trying to defeat, the very person whose message scared them, is the very person who they helped win this race.
God, that's dumb. If only because it's a lie. It's a fraud. It's Colbert who kept Tallarico off the show. Did the interview, but didn't play it on broadcast, only played it online. And they colluded to keep a black woman from being on air. And there's Joe Scarborough trying to give them cover by blaming Republicans and Trump. You don't hate the media enough, kitten. You really don't. You don't hate these people enough, because they are just wholly, absolutely terrible. Now, we talked about Kristi Noem. She's there on the Hill, but Governor Tim Walz is on the Hill, and he's talking about fraud, which he clearly knows a lot about because of all the fraud that took place in Minneapolis with Somali nationals and Americans, and the cheating of the healthcare system, and of course trying to convince America that he was, not a beta male. And while he's on the Hill, he's taking hits, right? He's taking a shrapnel. He's getting hits from a Nancy Mace left and right. And at one moment, she's like, "Can you just explain a little something here?"
was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2017, Governor?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Congresswoman.
Did you prepare for this hearing today? Did you
I
do
did.
any
I
preparation
take
for this hearing
Congress
today?
seriously.
And you've seen the numbers about autism fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to do some Minnesota math with you today, okay? Are you ready? How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent.
And she goes down the line. They did. They spent $1 million, $1,099,000 on autism programs in Minnesota in 2017. In 2024, $343 million. We have a fraud problem, obviously. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Can I share just a little bit of special about the very, very broken Candace Owens, who clearly was in love with Charlie Kirk, and he did not reciprocate, and it made her crazy. This is the new take. I am down with that take, by the way. So there's this post on the Twitter X where Netanyahu is speaking, and it reads, Netanyahu, you see the difference. The tyrants of Tehran target civilians. We target the tyrants of Tehran to protect civilians. And Candace Owens responds with, you murdered 3,000 Americans on September 11th, for starters. So this is where we are now in the conversation regarding her mental state. We are now in the, oh, that's right, she thinks that 9/11 was caused by the Israelis. What do you want me to do? You want me to think that, well, she's got a point. Well, listen, I don't give two damns about this Jew-hating bigot. I don't care in the slightest. But every now and again, it's always good to check in on somebody who has still way too many followers. It's shameful that people are still proactive in this. I want people to know what is. Oh, by the way, same thing is true with Megyn Kelly. I think she thinks she's having engaged in a real argument here. She's not. It's ridiculous. I didn't forgive her from the poor debate job when she was with Fox. I don't know. I never understood why everybody rallied around her with this new show. There's no here. There's nothing great going on. There are a lot of people doing really interesting work, podcasts and radio and all sorts of things. Megyn Kelly? I don't mind going after this one, that one, or the other one. Oh, but I'm going to leave Candace alone. Everybody's fair game. You say something you agree with, you say so. They say something you disagree with, you say so. It's okay to notice that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are out of their minds. It's important. And Megyn, you're right there with just ridiculous pablum that you are somehow led to believe is intellectual heft. Intellectual heft is what you're doing. It's hateful weirdo-ness. But hey, it must get you clicks. Letitia James is the Attorney General of New York. And Letitia James is the one who has gone after Trump. Letitia James is the one who, it's questionable what she did with getting a mortgage and claiming her residency. Letitia James has now sent a letter to a New York University hospital saying that you have to resume gender-affirming care treatments to transgender youth. You have to. The letter, according to her, violates the state anti-discrimination laws by, quote, jeopardizing access to medically necessary health care for some of the most vulnerable New Yorkers. Yes, they're called children. And she says, you have to mutilate them. That's what she said. That's what she said. In my beloved Indiana, there's a story of a teacher who wouldn't use pronouns, and he feels he was forced to resign. This story goes back to like 2018. And then he said, I'm going to not resign. The school said, nope, you resigned. It's too late. And he has sued, and they just settled for $650,000 because the school said, you have to use the pronoun the student wants. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he said it was a violation of his religious beliefs. It's a violation of a code of decency. Asking people to lie is wrong. Asking people to not recognize reality is wrong. And feeding into a child's mental illness is wrong. To hell with the school. To hell with Letitia James. Hospitals that abuse children, hospitals that mutilate children shouldn't be hospitals. Doctors who do this shouldn't be allowed to have licenses. What are we doing? What are we pretending for? Letitia James favors the abuse of children. New Yorkers want to vote for her? You're out of your damn minds. And I was happy to see this guy get $650,000 from a school corporation named Brownsburg. That's the name of the town. Let everybody know. You can't force us into pronouns. We're going to win this fight. You're going to lose this fight. We're not going to let you mutilate children, and we're never going to stop. You will tire. We will win. This is Tony Katz today. It's the only way it can be. It's the only way this can go. We have to win, and they have to lose, and that is that. So here is where we're at. First of all, we did talk about getting Arnold Schwarzenegger on the show. I don't know if producer Landon has done anything about it or not. Was that Landon, or did I ask producer Carl to do that? So you quit. So I did ask producer Landon, and like a quitter, you met with some resistance and you didn't go any further. Okay, I don't pay for quitters. Just saying that right now. Now, according to Kenneth, I said I would pump iron with him in a crop top. I never said I would wear a crop top. I will go full on shirtless like I am Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Thank you. Thank you very much. Settle down, ladies. Settle down for all this. So we've got the White House briefing coming up. Going to bring that to you. Should be interesting. No, I don't think Trump's coming out for it. I don't think so. He's got an AI roundtable later in the day, but I don't think he's going to come out for it. But I will bring you that. So here's the story. We are in, by the way, it turns out that the chat room very much likes the idea of me shirtless. Settle down. Can we please? It's a family-friendly show. Thank you. So the radio show is in commercial break. We're going to take the commercial break. When we come back, we will have the White House press briefing. We'll go from there. So do me a favor. Smoke them if you got them. Right? That's a good bit of advice. Hang loose, and we'll be back in a little bit. Let's keep it right here. Be back in a few. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, you hear it now. Now you hear it. Now you see it. That's White House briefing room, and they are back to the gills. We're going to have Caroline Levitt coming out. I believe there's going to be a whole song and dance routine. And then two members of the press corps are going to have to play a Squid Game. Oh, if only that was true. Don't know. Turn that down. I'm assuming we're going to get Iran updates. I don't know if she'll be up there with General Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, if Pete Hegseth will be there, whether we hear from Rubio or anybody else. We will see what we will see. White House press briefing. That is what's coming up next. And the room is, as one would guess, very full. Very full indeed. Tony Katz today. I'm pretty sure Caitlin Collins just walked in right there, and she's taking her seat. God, so special and in charge. Sit down, Caitlin. Please, she's got a seat in the briefing room. She's doing her job. I may not like the way she does her job, but she's doing her job. So we will hear the latest in the briefing. We will hear what it is that Caroline Levitt has to discuss. We assume there'll be a fair amount about Iran. There will be a large amount regarding national security and DHS funding. If they are smart, they will be talking about DHS funding. They will be talking about how Democrats are putting American families at risk. They will discuss how the Democrats are putting national security at risk. We are a nation engaged in a fight to do away with an Islamic regime that has supported terrorism against Americans for decades. And the last thing we need is to find ourselves hamstrung because Democrats are more interested in politics than they are in success in defeating the enemy. See how easy that was? Listen, if Caroline Leavitt needs my help, I'm there for her. I am there. I, as I've often said, press secretary for a week. That's all I need. Press secretary for a week. I would be amazing, and it'd be enough time to write my book. Oh, 1,000%. Over there at justthenews.com, when we talk about these people opposed to what's happening in Iran, they're not the people who are having an honest-to-goodness conversation of, wait a second, what is the plan? What is success? What is the exit? Like, do we know all these things? Do we need to know all these things? How are we going about this? Is there another way to go? Like, that's rational. You can have people agree and disagree about those things. You and your neighbor, you and a friend, right? Different ways to look at this. No, we should do this. No, we should do that. No, we should partner with this person. No, we needed more nations over here, etc. I'm not a guy who believes you need the United Nations for anything. The United Nations is a failed organization that has never kept the peace and has never done away with a despot. The United Nations should be tossed aside and we should start fresh. Well, I absolutely believe this. But the larger scale of these people protesting the war, oh, we don't believe in war. These people are paid by the Chinese Communist Party. Just the News with the reporting that you have Chinese state-run media promoting anti-war protests that are linked to this guy, Neville Singham, who is a communist who wants to see the end of America, makes millions from his work in China. So you see the groups like Answer, Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, communists. The People's Forum, Marxists. You have Code Pink, really sad, lonely, liberal white women, also communists. And the Party for Socialism and Liberation, but I repeat myself. And they are all getting money from this guy and from these groups, and they've all got the signs, and they were all perfectly printed, and they're all put together. There is nothing grassroots about any of these people. None of them. It is all paid for propaganda to try and destroy Western civilization. I started the show today by discussing what it is that Pete Hegseth was discussing and how the Secretary of, you want to call him the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, it's totally up to you. He started by saying we have complete and total domination. Every step of the way, we have all of the control. It is sure as bloody heck not the Iranian regime.
4 days into this, and the results have been incredible. Historic, really. Only the United States of America could lead this, only us. But when you add the Israeli Defense Forces, a devastatingly capable force, the combination is sheer destruction for our radical Islamist Iranian adversaries. They are toast, and they know it. Or at least soon enough, they will know it.
And of course, he goes on, we're hunting, we're dismantling, we're ripping apart.
Demoralize, destroy, and defeat their capabilities just 4 days in.
And so this is all part of the propaganda. right? That conversation is not for us. That conversation is to try and demoralize the IRGC. It's a propaganda war. I mean, it is what it is. The communists want to dismantle us. This is nothing new. We are not surprised by this. What we don't know, because we're busy living our lives, is the levels to which this is happening, the money that is spent on doing this, the desires of the Chinese Communist Party to make this happen. Which is why you cannot allow anybody from the Chinese Communist Party or no Chinese national to own land or businesses in the United States. None. None. Because their objective is our destruction. And they utilize useful idiots like Code Pink and like these fools who belong to Answer to move their agenda along. It's who they are. It's what they do. And I want to make sure everybody starts paying very close attention and recognize that when you hear a story on social media, your kids are talking about something on TikTok, whatever the case may be, what you see from CNN, stop. Take a moment. What is this story? Believing it off the cuff is a terrible, terrible idea. And it's something that we discussed over the last weeks. This idea that all this polling of everybody's negative on Trump and Trump's unpopular and this is unpopular and ICE is unpopular. It's not true. It's just not true. And we saw after the State of the Union, his numbers bumped up and his favorables beat his unfavorables. Now, those numbers came out before the hit on Iran, and what you are now going to see is the unfavorables climb back. It's not even a question. You see this over in a couple of weeks and the regime gone, you see even more favorables. I mean, we should all be perfectly clear that you make a move like this as you head towards a midterm where Republicans are behind the eight ball anyway because of traditional movement in how people vote. And engaging this attack on the Iranian regime is fraught. But it's the right thing to do. So it's a conversation of leadership over political expediency. And I think that's a way Republicans need to engage it because it happens to be accurate. But it is fraught. A lot can go wrong. A lot. Now, you've already killed the Ayatollah. You've already been able to destroy a large amount of their leadership. A lot's gone in your favor. Right now, we have 6 dead Americans, and it's horrifying. Agreed. But you don't spend your days counting like that. That's how the left is going to do it. What is the better tomorrow? What's the better future? If there's anything the administration needs to sell, it's that. And a future that has terrorists not being paid to be terrorists, that's a better future for me and for you and for the left and for the progressives and for those commie lowlifes, whether they know it or not. But they're commies. I mean, what actually do they know? I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, still waiting on Caroline Leavitt for the briefing. Everybody first of all, the room is stupid full, as you saw earlier. They usually up. I've got movement. Okay. No, they're bringing in someone for the seat. For the new media seat, which is usually what they do before they get started. So we may have timed this right with the radio show. Now, I saw this from Audrey. We're not prosecuting our political enemies. There are actually a lot of people very bothered by this. Ann's point is that's not what we do. I'm gonna go both ways with you guys on this. It isn't what we do, but there are people who engaged in serious crimes, and I want to know why they still have jobs and why we haven't gone after them. The people involved in crimes, why would we not go after them? Meanwhile, here's Caroline Leavitt. Bring on the press briefing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist regime is being absolutely crushed. 47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979, the terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization itself. These terrorists seized our embassy and took 66 Americans hostage in Tehran. They slaughtered 241 U.S. service members with a truck bombing in Beirut. They killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. And this is just a small fraction of their blood-soaked record. Prior leaders have been too weak and ineffective to address this threat. Some, like Barack Hussein Obama, even sent pallets of cash that ultimately financed this terrorist crusade against the United States and our people, while signing stupid and naive deals that put Iran on the path of developing nuclear bombs. After years of endless appeasement and empty statements from politicians on both sides of the political aisle in this town, President Trump is finally the man of action.
That is Caroline Leavitt. This is the White House press briefing happening as we speak. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Let me bring it back to Caroline Leavitt.
Of Americans will look to this moment as the moment where the specter of a nuclear armed Iran ended. At the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, launched last weekend, President Trump laid out clear objectives to the American people on what the U.S. military seeks to accomplish through these major combat operations. Number one, destroy the regime's deadly ballistic missiles and completely raze their missile industry to the ground. Number two, annihilate the Iranian regime's navy. And so far, we have destroyed more than 20 Iranian ships, including their top submarine last night, using a torpedo for the first time since World War II. There is not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. Number three, Operation Epic Fury will ensure the regime's terrorist proxies in the region can no longer destabilize the region or the free world and attack our armed forces. And thus far, Iran's proxies are hardly putting up a fight. Number four, this mission will guarantee that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. It's safe to say that thus far, Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding success. American forces have struck more than 2,000 targets, destroying hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. As the Department of War said this morning, we expect to have complete and total dominance over Iranian airspace in the coming hours, clearing the skies for our brave warriors to continue achieving these noble and long sought-after objectives.
So we now know what the purpose of this press briefing was. be sure to set the goals and the parameters for why we are there and what we're trying to achieve. That's what Caroline Leavitt just did there. Will it take? That's a different conversation.
Nuclear sites. Yet the terrorist Iranian regime has remained fully committed to rebuilding its nuclear program. How do we know this? Because Iran has pursued this path of war and violence despite President Trump dispatching two of his top and most trusted negotiators to engage in exhaustive and good faith negotiations to try and reach a deal. And the world knows this president's preference is always peace and diplomacy first. Look no further than the 8 additional global conflicts he has ended in the past year as proof. Unfortunately, the terrorist Iranian regime refused to negotiate in good faith. They chose this path of violence and destruction, and they are reaping the consequences of their horrible decision. The regime did what they always have done. They lied, they delayed, they tried to string the United States of America along. They wanted to buy themselves time to continue building ballistic missiles and other deadly weaponry that could harm our U.S. personnel and troops in the region, and to continue aggressively pursuing their unacceptable nuclear ambitions. U.S. negotiators offered to lift crippling sanctions on Iran and even provide nuclear fuel to Iran at no cost to support a civil nuclear power program. They additionally had the opportunity to accept U.S. support as an investor in potential projects to develop peaceful nuclear energy together under a mutually agreed upon framework. Yet in response, Iran would have to forfeit their enrichment capacity once and for all. But Iran rejected. They accepted none of these generous and unprecedented offers by the United States. Simply put, they refused to say yes to peace. And their refusal made clear that their #1 priority was building a nuclear weapon with which to threaten the United States of America. Again, the country they have been chanting death to for nearly 5 decades. Let me state this again clearly. Iran rejected the path of peace because the terrorists in charge of this regime wanted to build nuclear weapons to use against Americans and our allies. President Trump made the determination, a courageous determination and decision, that the path the United States was on with Iran had only one outcome: massive death and destruction at the hands of a nuclear-armed terroristic regime. That path of death and destruction and threats against the American people have ended with Operation Epic Fury. Operation Epic Fury has forged a new path that will better ensure the security of the United States and our people.
I'm in favor of it, but this is the wrong way to talk. It's not done. Don't do mission accomplished stuff. We saw this from George Bush. It was a mistake. Stop making the mistakes. Don't be stupid, people. We are fighting. We will fight until it is over. We will fight until we win. We will win. We will stay at it. This president is committed. Our military is the best trained, and that's that. That's the way you handle this.
Who possess the most sophisticated capabilities this world has ever known. 49 and counting of the most senior Iranian regime leaders, including the supreme leader, have already been wiped off the face of the earth. Make no mistake, killing these brutal terrorists is good for America and makes the world a much safer place. I want to also extend our prayers and condolences to the families of the 6 U.S. military service members who have been lost in Operation Epic Fury. These heroes represent the very best among us. They laid down their lives in defense of our country, and we will never forget their legacy or their sacrifice. As the president said, we grieve for these American patriots and their families as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. President Trump intends to attend the dignified transfer of these American heroes to stand in grief alongside their families. I understand the Department of War is working on scheduling this transfer, and we will provide updates at the appropriate time. Finally, the Trump administration is also doing everything within our power to protect Americans in harm's way. Since the launch of Operation Epic Fury, more than 17,500 Americans have safely returned home from the Middle East, with over 8,500 American citizens returning home to the United States just yesterday alone. If you are a U.S. citizen in the Middle East looking to return to the United States, the Secretary of State asks that you please register with the State Department at step.state.gov. The State Department will identify where you are and provide travel options directly to you. The administration is already rapidly chartering flights free of charge and booking commercial options, which we expect to become increasingly available as time goes on and the success of this mission further comes to fruition. I know the President and Secretary of State Rubio have been in touch as well with our allies in the region directly about this problem, making it clear that it is a priority of the United States of America to bring every American home. The Trump administration will not rest until every American is home safely and until the terrorist threat from Iran has been completely destroyed. With that, I'll take your questions. Eric, why don't you kick us off today?
Mention about Homeland Security.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. As you mentioned, Iran's regime, its leadership has largely been decimated. Do we have a sense right now of who is actually calling the shots in Iran? And we're also hearing reports that the Supreme Leader's son may be named his successor. Do you have any more information about that? I just had a quick follow-up as well.
Sure. We've seen those reports as well, of course, and this is something that our intelligence agencies are closely monitoring and looking at. The truth is, we'll have to wait and see. The president has said repeatedly that the objectives of Operation Epic Fury are the 4 military objectives that I laid out for you previously: to destroy Iran's navy, to destroy their ballistic missile capacity, to ensure their proxies in the region can no longer harm Americans, and to also ensure that they can never
Laying out what it is the objectives are again for the American people.
The president has said,
I'll have more of the press
thing for the United
conference coming up.
States to
Keep
want
it here.
freedom for the
This is
Iranian
Tony
people,
Katz today.
and ultimately we hope that freedom rests in their hands.
Caroline, we see the Arab and Muslim nations coming under fire as well. President Trump's vision for the region has been to bring the Arab and Muslim nations to the table together, Abraham Accords, obviously with Israel. If this regime topples, could we see a new day in the region and really a new Middle East come out of this when the dust settles?
Well, though the greatest deterrent to true and long-lasting peace in the Middle East has always been the rogue Iranian terrorist regime. And our Arab and Gulf partners in the nation admit that, as well as, of course, our close friend and ally Israel. We have seen all of the Arab partners in the region come together during this time on the phone with President Trump, many of them commending him for this bold and brave action to protect American troops and our bases in the region that are housed in many of these Arab and Gulf states. And I know that many of these regional partners are contributing their air defense capabilities as well. Jordan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and the president continues to be engaged with all of them. Welcome. Garrett.
Also to Bill Huberman. Axios, I think, was the first to report this morning, this phone call between the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying that Netanyahu had given the U.S. this information about where the Ayatollah would be and that he'd be with his deputies on Saturday. How important was that information in the president making the decision to strike where and when he did?
I think it was important with respect to the timeline, but I think the president, prior to that phone call, had a good feeling that the Iranian regime was going to strike the United States assets and our personnel in the region. And the president was faced with a choice. Does the United States of America use our military and our capabilities to strike first, to take out this threat that has been threatening our country and our people for 47 years? Or is he going to, as commander-in-chief, sit back and watch as the rogue Iranian regime attacks our people in the region? That's obviously an unacceptable decision. For the second choice there is unacceptable to the president, which is why he made this decision. As for where the Ayatollah was going to be, that obviously had an impact on the timeline of the operation, but not quite the president's decision in its entirety.
And then on the way the public is viewing this, we were sitting here last week. I asked you if the president was going to make this a big part of the State of the Union, if he felt like he had to sell the possibility that he'd do strikes like this. We're now 5 days on. He hasn't done kind of the traditional speech to the nation part of it. Does the president believe the country supports the actions that he's taken so far in Iran?
I think he does. And I think the president knows the country is smart enough to read past many of the fake news headlines produced by people in this room that this action was unjustified.
Dude, that was coming.
Again, this is a rogue
They
terrorist
walked into
regime
that.
that's been threatening the United States, our allies, and our people for 47 years. And the American people are smart enough to know that. And they've also been smart enough to listen to the president himself, not just over the past year in this second term, but during his first term as president, and also for the past 40 years of his life. This is a president who has been remarkably consistent on this issue, that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And the president tried peace through diplomacy exhaustively and extensively. He and his team gave it their best go, and the president ultimately came to the determination conclusion of that peace was not a pursuable path. The Iranian regime, they want death, they want destruction, they want to kill Americans, and that's unacceptable to this president. It's intolerable to him as commander-in-chief. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. Obviously, seen the update from the State Department on the 17,500 Americans that have already come back, including some 8,000 just yesterday. There are still 6,000 that are looking to get out, as I understand it. And just in the context of what you just told Garrett about the president's decision on a timeline, if he had decided to do this strike before receiving, the specific intelligence about the meeting on Saturday, should there have been more done in advance of the strikes to try to get those Americans in the region resources and information to get home before day 3 of the war?
There was many signs put out by the State Department, and I wish that everyone in this room would report on them. The Secretary of State issued level 4 travel advisories dating back to January for many of these countries in the region. On January 14th, the U.S. mission to Saudi Arabia advised personnel and Americans to exercise increased caution and limit non-essential travel to any military installations. On February 11th, the U.S. Department of State Consular Affairs shared a list of countries with level 4 do not travel advisories. You can't be much more clear than that. Do not travel to these following countries. On February 23rd, the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon ordered non-emergency government personnel and family members to leave Lebanon due to safety risks, and we helped them do that. On March 2nd, the State Department urged U.S. citizens to depart Lebanon immediately. With respect to Iran, on February 27th, the Secretary designated Iran as a state of sponsor of wrongful detention and stated no American should travel to Iran for any reason. And again, on February 27th, the U.S. ambassador to Israel warned Americans to leave Iran, and they provided travel advisory alerts through the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. So the State Department—
That is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying, hey, we know we have Americans in these places and they haven't been able to get back. We brought back 17,000. We believe we have another 6,000 people out there based on who has registered. But we've had these travel warnings. We've been telling people for a while not to go. Now that's a little bit of playfulness. Tony Katz today. No one was expecting, like the Spanish Inquisition, no one was expecting bombs to drop on Iran, Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv to stop flying, and other places across the Mediterranean and in the area to no longer be able to have any travel. That wasn't something that was expected. Heightened tension, sure. America and Israel leading the charge to take out the Iranian regime this past weekend. Not on everybody's bingo card. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Let's bring it back to the question from Jackie Heinrich from Fox News to Caroline Leavitt.
And the cost of oil spiking. Is there a need to start those Navy escorts in the Strait of Hormuz now to sort of blunt the impact to people? And also, because Spain is a member of the EU, does that at all put a wrinkle in the president's plan for a trade embargo with them?
With respect to Spain, I think they heard the president's message yesterday loud and clear. And it's my understanding over the past several hours, they've agreed to cooperate with the U.S. military. And so I know that the U.S. military is coordinating with their counterparts in Spain. But
well, that's new. Trump said he was going to end trade with Spain because Spain got all uppity. Because, I mean, they are what they are. They support the Palestinian state. They're radically progressives, radical progressives. But I had not heard that. That's new information. Spain was now all of a sudden saying, hey, we'll help.
This is something that Secretary Bessent, Secretary Wright, the National Economic Council of Energy, that is led by Secretary Burgum, has been long working on and well in advance. Yesterday, President Trump announced the U.S. Development Finance Corporation will provide political risk insurance at a very reasonable price for crude carriers and cargo ships operating in and around the Gulf. And as you pointed out, Jackie, the president said, if necessary and when appropriate, the U.S. Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. I think it speaks to why this action was so necessary, that ultimately the energy industry is going to benefit from the president's actions with respect to Iran, because Iran will no longer be controlling the Strait of Hormuz and restricting the free flow of energy, which, as you all know, controls 20% of the world's global oil supply.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said yesterday there wasn't time to make evacuation plans because this all happened so quickly. Given how critical the president has been of the chaotic evacuation from Afghanistan by the last administration 5 years ago, Why wasn't there more of a focus on evacuation plans from
Oh,
the
I
Middle
hope she
East
gets
that could have
eviscerated.
been, at least put in place, ready to go before the strikes this weekend?
Again, I just laid out for you that there have been plans in place and that the State Department has been very clear to the American people traveling within this region not to travel to these regions. We gave notices to leave immediately the countries where these Americans were within. And unlike the previous administration, we actually have a number. We actually have identified the number of people in the region who have requested help. We are in direct contact and engagement with them. And you have to keep in mind, there's a few thousand people who have requested assistance to come home in comparison to the millions who we understand are in the region. So we will help every single American who wants to come home if they're making that request of the State Department.
Americans who called the State Department hotline as recently as last night were being told, we can't help you. You have to make your own plans.
Well, the line was updated, and I expect every single person in this room to report on that accurately so that information can be relayed appropriately to your audiences and to the American people. I think as journalists, you all have a responsibility to let them know that the line has been updated accordingly with the proper guidance, because I saw many people in this room very quick to do selfie videos with the line yesterday, but not so quick to report on the corrected message today. So that is something the administration quickly worked to address, and we have fixed that problem. However, we're also pointing to people to the website, again, to register so that we know exactly where you are. So when there are commercial flights moving into that area, when there are chartered flights moving into that area, we can get Americans on planes as quickly as possible.
Let's break this down a little bit. The argument being made by the leftist press corps is we can't fault you. We can't go after how you're handling taking out the Iranian regime. So let's go at you on this. People are still out there. Now, if you had given the warning, you would have given the warning to Iran. If you had made other moves, you might have given them too much information. I don't disagree that you've got people out there, American citizens out there. But if the argument is, hey, register here, register there, we're coming to get you, we've got the flights, we'll coordinate this, we'll do that. Good. What the left is doing is trying to figure out where their angle is. That was not a comparing it to Afghanistan. Not an honest question at all.
Eliminate Iran's ballistic missile threat, destroy their naval capability, disrupt missile and drone production infrastructure, sever their pathway, and end their pathway to nuclear weapons. And I can report, as you all saw from the Pentagon today, that thus far this operation has been remarkably successful. Again, we're moving towards complete and total control of Iranian airspace. We have continuous 24/7 strike operations ongoing. We've had more than 2,000 targets that have been struck. Nearly 2,000 munitions have been employed. The first 24 hours of this campaign were described nearly as twice the scale of the 2003 shock and awe campaign. And we've seen that the enemy, the Iranian rogue regime, their retaliatory strikes against the United States and the threat reduction has reduced significantly. If you look at the Iranian ballistic missile launches, they're down 86% from day one levels. So while the United States
they still are able to launch, and they still are doing damage in places. They still are attacking, taking place.
They are weakening day by day.
And that is good that they're weakening day by day. That is not necessarily proof of they can't do anything else. They did just shoot at Turkey, which is certifiably insane of the Iranians. Hell, they may not even know where they're shooting to. What is this idea that we would have that somehow they really are aware of what they're doing, having the skill set?
States wouldn't mind seeing the government overthrown. Certainly President Trump has talked about wanting to see Iranians overthrow the government. Has the president considered at all kind of how he views a U.S. role, if any, in Iran post-conflict?
I think it's something the president is actively considering and discussing with his advisors and his national security team. But again, right now, the focus minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day is on ensuring the quick and effective success of Operation Epic Fury.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you about the U.S. munitions
I
stockpile.
don't even know who's speaking because I wasn't looking at you. You can ask a question and then I'll go to you.
I want to ask you about the U.S. munitions stockpile. President Trump posted on Truth Social on Monday that the U.S. still has a good supply of weapons, but that we're not where we need to be. What does he mean by that? And does President Trump then want to ask on Congress to pass a supplemental to increase funding for missile interceptor systems like the ones being used to defend U.S. bases in the Middle East from Iranian missiles?
I don't have any updates for you on congressional asks from the president. As you know, under this president, we have significantly increased our defense budget, which is a good thing for the United States, for our national security, and for protecting our homeland. With respect to munitions, ammunition, weapon stockpiles, the United States of America has more than enough capability to not only successfully execute Operation Epic Fury, but to go much further. And we have weapon stockpiles in places that many people in this world don't even know about. However, the president in that post was pointing out that unfortunately we had a very stupid and incompetent leader in this White House for 4 years who gave away many of our best weapons for nothing, for free, to another country very far away by the name of Ukraine. So the president was pointing out how that was an unwise decision, but nevertheless, don't doubt the strength and the might of the American military. And I will also add, President Trump has rightfully been calling on defense contractors in this country to rapidly and aggressively produce American-made weapons because they are the best in the world, and the president always likes to get things done as quickly as possible, and so he's been quite vocal in his efforts to try to speed up our defense industry.
I heard this earlier, and I said this is the craziest conversation I ever heard. The idea that we don't have enough ammunition is insane. I'm like, is this a leftist talking point that somehow we don't have enough ammunition to have this fight? Because if we don't, I say, let's make sure we don't ever fund Planned Parenthood again. Let's find a good 10, 15 leftist programs and stop the funding of them to make sure we've got enough bullets. You always have to have enough bullets. Bullets first. That's what you need to have. And if we're going to have a question now about whether or not we've got enough bullets, we need to go get some bullets. So, couple programs, lefty programs, got to go. Got to go. Let me bring it back to Caroline Levitt real quick.
Did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean, and the Department of War is investigating this matter, and I would just tell you very strongly, the United States of America does not target civilians, unlike the rogue Iranian regime that targets civilians, that kills children, that has killed thousands of their own people in the past several weeks, and uses propaganda quite effectively, and unfortunately, many people in this room have fallen for that propaganda. So I would caution you from pointing the finger at the United States of America when it comes to targeting civilians, because that's
the idea that the school was targeted by the U.S. or Israel. The other reports were it was an Iranian missile that misfired. I'll wait for the investigations to take place. We've got more from the press briefing. Caroline Levitt, keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. Let me bring it back to Caroline Levitt.
It's absolutely still a priority for this president and the administration.
You know?
The focus, of course, of much of the president's time right now is on ensuring the success of Operation Epic Fury, but the president can walk and chew gum at the same time, and he's very much continuing to focus on the issues that matter here at home for the American people, including the passage of the SAVE Act, including on bringing down the cost of living, which is why you'll see the president in about an hour and a half at the Ratepayer Protection Pledge Roundtable, where he will be sitting with big tech companies, with AI companies who are building in communities across the country and have pledged to pick up the cost of the electricity tab in these small towns and communities across the country, which is a great thing for American consumers. So you'll be hearing from the president directly on this very important domestic agenda item later this afternoon. And it's something that he mentioned in his State of the Union address. So check it off the list as another promise made and kept by this president. Sure, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I just wanted to get back to Danny's question. So those 4 objectives that you read out do not explicitly include regime change. If those objectives were achieved and the Islamic Republic still existed, would that be an acceptable outcome?
That's a hypothetical question that I'm not going to engage in. Again, right now, the president and the commander-in-chief are focused on executing the success of Operation Epic Fury, which we are already doing so in a very tremendous and impressionable way. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. The Trump administration reportedly is considering arming Kurdish forces in the hopes of inspiring a popular uprising in Iran. Could you comment on that report?
I could comment on the fact that the president has held many calls with partners, allies, and leaders in the region, in the Middle East. He did speak to Kurdish leaders with respect to our base that we have in northern Iraq. But as for any report suggesting that the president has agreed to any such plan is completely false and should not be written.
President Trump was saying yesterday that he is okay with someone from within taking over in Iran. He spoke about how Venezuela he saw as a successful model where Delcy Rodriguez took over and had a better relationship. Iran's President Pezeshkian, he took office in 2024 as a relative reformer. He's part of a three-man council now replacing the supreme leader. Does President Trump see him as a potential successor who is more pliable?
Again, that's another hypothetical, and I haven't spoken to the president about this specific individual, so I don't want to get ahead of him on any assessments that should be made.
Thank you. Yesterday, the president acknowledged that oil prices will be a bit high. As for gas prices here in the U.S., what is the admin doing right now to counter that? I mean, should they skyrocket? Is there a plan to help Americans right now with those higher gas prices? And then a second question, on the rash that was on the president's neck, the White House physician said it was a preventative skin cream that he was using, but why is the president using this cream? What are they trying to prevent with this?
He had a rash.
To your second question, I don't have anything additional to add to the physician statement that we provided to all of you on those questions, but I know the statement said that the redness on the neck will dissipate within the next couple of weeks. To your first question about oil prices, thank God we have a president who has exuded American energy dominance over the past year, an administration that is wholeheartedly focused on keeping prices stable as best as we can. Of course, this operation is temporary to protect the homeland, but crude oil prices did fall yesterday. They remain stable today after the president announced steps to ensure the stability in global energy markets. Again, those include the DEC offering reasonably priced political risk insurance and the potential for the U.S. Navy to provide protection for the flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. It is the president's belief and his economic team's belief that the economy continues to be very strong. It's robust and will be able to weather any of the temporary impacts of Operation Epic Fury. John.
All right.
Caroline. Just to follow up to that, the timeline
You
for
want to get
making
into
the
this, but I want to
Strait
hear
of Hormuz safe for oil tankers to transport their oil through the strait. What is that timeline, and what can the president do to speed up that timeline?
I don't want to commit to a timeline, but certainly it's something that is being calculated actively by both the Department of War and the Department of Energy. They're working very closely. Both secretaries are in all of the briefings on this subject with the president, and this is, again, something they're monitoring. And if and when necessary, the United States Navy will provide assistance to escort oil tankers through the strait. Sure, in the blue.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're not in blue, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I guess you are, sort of. I'll go to you after.
You had mentioned about the commercial aircraft being used for the evacuations. What about the use of military aircraft? Would that happen in conjunction with that or subsequent to?
That is something that is definitely underway. And of course, we're going to use that.
And I think the questions about how are you getting people out and are you adding other flights, I do think that's all legitimate. I think the gotcha is trying to compare it to Afghanistan is too gross for words. Caroline Leavitt was absolutely correct not to answer the hypothetical question because that would be a policy conversation, right? What happens when some remnant of the regime is still in power and you're like, okay, that's enough. Now, for the record, that's not enough for me. I don't want any part of the regime to be in there. Not for a second do I want any part of the regime to remain. So this is, of course, the question that you can't really answer. This is the question that is most difficult to answer. Tony Katz today. I don't even know if the radio show has come back yet or not, but I only hope so. And so I was kind of really deep in thought there about what she had said and wanted to go over it, wanted to make sure I had it right in my head. I think that this is when I discuss that America should be discussing what we're doing in Iran. What is success is a big one. And you heard her lay out a list of things. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're getting this done. We're getting right. They're setting this now. They're setting this. Now, you could argue, well, you should have had it set before. I'm less concerned about that. But that's me on a personal level. But if success is a member of the Ayatollah's regime being in charge and these people still not being free, and in any level terrorism still being paid for or financially supported or supported in general, nope, that's not success. But one could argue that what it is it's another step that we have taken to getting there. That doesn't really satisfy, does it? It doesn't. But when I heard her say it, I said, that's the right answer. But it is not necessarily an answer to the question, but it's the right answer for her because the job of the press secretary is not to answer that question at all.
To give themselves immunity within their country alongside their Navy so that inside their country, they could continue to create nuclear weapons and nuclear bombs, which would, of course, pose a risk to Americans in the region and even Americans one day here at home. And then another point on this is the president found that through these extensive, exhaustive, failed negotiations with Iran, that they were hell-bent on death and destruction. So again, the president was not going to be just another president on a very long list who sat back and stood by and passed the buck of this direct threat to the next administration. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region, and he made a determination to launch Operation Epic Fury.
And so here's the question. For those on the left who make this statement, make this claim that there was no imminent threat, let's say they don't believe what Caroline Leavitt just said, and they don't believe that Iran was getting ready to strike. At what moment would you have believed it? Is the threat imminent when we catch wind of it through our intelligence or some other nation's intelligence apparatus? Or is the threat imminent just at that moment before impact in Cleveland, Ohio? When is it imminent? And so I really dismiss what I consider to be a lot of silliness on this idea of imminent. Because it would seem that the left thinks imminent is right before boom. And I think that's way too late to do something. I think after Beirut, after the taking of hostages in 79, we owed it to them to take them out. I'm glad it's happening. This is Tony Katz today.
That dominance over the skies, which means the United States military will be raining missiles and weapons down on Iran to hit these specific targets that have been identified as crucial to take out by the Department of War. Caroline. John.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Has the U.S. posture changed in regard to a nuclear North Korea, given the latest strikes on Iran and the fact that the stated goal is to make sure that Iran is not a nuclear country?
I don't have any change in position with respect to North Korea today.
Thank you. A quick follow-up. There's been reports that Ali Khamenei's son has been elected as the next supreme leader. Does the administration think that he is a part of the same regime as his father? Would they like people in the country to rise up and get him out of power?
There's reports he's been elected or that he's assuming to be elected. One of the likely options.
Pardon me, what was that?
That he's one of the likely options or that he has been elected. Okay, so we'll wait to confirm until someone actually is.
You just mentioned that the president is going to attend the dignified transfer for these families. Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Secretary Hexet was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not... We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Get through where tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
Yeah,
As you know, we cover the deaths of U.S. service
the-
members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
That's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make.
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well. Go ahead.
Thank you so much on the school strike. Back to that for a minute. I understand that the U.S. does not target civilian infrastructure. That's what you said. Can you say that there's any evidence right now that it was not a U.S. strike? And then also, you didn't mention Israel in that. Is there any assessment about Israel's potential likely role in that, if at all?
Again, the Department of War is currently investigating this matter, but again, I will reaffirm that the Department of War and the United States Armed Forces do not target civilians, as does the Iranian regime, who kill and execute their own people. Christian.
On two separate issues, Caroline. First, what can you tell us about the military operation in Ecuador? And then secondly, is the president considering invoking the Defense Production Act to boost munition stockpiles while we are in this conflict?
It's not something I've heard the president consider, but as you know, the president has been in pretty direct correspondence and public correspondence with defense contractors, asking them to aggressively speed up their manufacturing of American-made weapons, which again are the best in the world. With respect to Ecuador, I would point you back to the statement released by the U.S. Southern Command.
I haven't gotten into what's going on in Ecuador.
Ecuadorian and U.S. military forces launched operations against.
I should get into that tomorrow. I will do that. Guys, the radio show continues at WIBC.com, so you want to check that out over there. I was a little more in, like, sometimes when she's talking, I'll just go and I'll riff off the cuff base. All right, I know exactly what that is. I know where she's going. This, I really wanted to hear her and how she was engaged there and how she was, just addressing Caitlin Collins there, because I want to go over that a little bit. But the big one about trying to set here's the objectives. Here is where we're at. This is a desire. And then not answering the question again. She was right. As press secretary, she was right. She didn't have the answer. She's not supposed to guess at the answer. However, the question is not awful. What happens when you pick somebody to lead Iran who is tangentially related to the Khomeini regime? That dog won't hunt for me. Not at all. Not in the slightest. By the way, she's ending the presser right now. You can actually see her saying, later. Oh, she's not going to be happy with that back and forth with Caitlin Collins over the soldiers. And by the way, we should be clear that what Pete Hegseth said is true. They will cover deaths. They won't cover the ending of the regime. And it happens to be true. Do I think it's wrong to cover deaths? No. Do I think it's wrong to cover one and not the other? Yes. Yes. Is anybody going to question whether or not CNN provides nothing but negative coverage? I have got some really interesting data I can share with you. I'm reminding me to do this tomorrow about how all coverage is negative. All Americans get is negative coverage. And it's a really problematic issue. I will get to that tomorrow. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. I am back tomorrow starting at 6 a.m. for WIBC, but I'm back at noon, and I will catch you guys then. I appreciate you. Take care.